Okay, welcome back to the podcast. We are 1 week away.
Whoop.
1 week away from Badwater, so it's the 20th. I suppose we're just a little bit more than 1 week because of the time zone. We're now counting. We're counting hours now, not months or years or weeks. So yeah, we're getting pretty close. How are things with you?
Yeah, good. Getting everything ready, wrapping up the last bits of work before flying out, and then it's time to lock into the strategy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we're four of us are flying out on Wednesday on 3 separate flights. A triumph of logistics. Then Brad's coming out on Friday. So yeah, we'll all be in across the Atlantic at the same time, and hopefully we'll be in LA at a similar time. But we're on 3 separate flights, so that's that. I wouldn't say mid. I'm in the process of packing, and it's quite a lot of packing. I'm not going to lie.
This is not your normal weekend away.
This is not hand luggage only. I can tell you that for nothing. It's definitely excess baggage territory. I've got enough Morton to fuel a kind of what appears to be an army, but actually in reality it's to fuel me, which is slightly scary in the same.
You are the army for this one.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was just thinking or commenting. It's so much more stuff than a self. Like when I run on my own, or when I do my own stuff, because obviously when you do it yourself, you're kind of limited and restricted to a certain degree of what you can kind of put in drop bags or take up the course. And here, we've just got a ton more stuff, which we have to take with us here, because that car is the kind of the moving aid station, and it's 5 people, or 5 of us that we're trying to keep sustained, which is quite a lot of stuff when you put it all together.
Yeah,
and I'm just going to write down a piece of paper because I remember something which I haven't packed.
I feel that might be happening quite a lot. That pen's going to be very close to you at all times.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's the first one I've actually seen you write something down though. It's not on the cloud.
I know, exactly. Not my note taker with me. So yeah, so it's we're kind of in the kind of final stages. It's all a bit too much time is created because I'm not training as much, which makes more time to think about stuff. I know. So yeah, I mean, I don't know when we last did one of these a couple of weeks back. I've basically just been in the heat chamber.
Yep, they're gonna you ever want to go back in that room again after this? You'd be like, no, I can't do it.
I quite like it there, which is lucky, I guess, because it's so hot and inhospitable. Nobody comes in and bothers me.
Dad, if you can talk to me when you're in here, then you're fine.
No, you can't talk through the door. You've got to come in. No, don't let me. So yeah, so it's been interesting going through that process. Second block, really, I suppose, of 10-ish days of doing this kind of heat training or heat adaptation, which we've talked about before. But the basic premise is go in, run on the treadmill, get your temperature up, and hold it. I mean, it's fairly basic, but that's the gig. And yeah, it's been interesting. I think it'll be been interesting what impacts it, like what makes it much harder, what makes it easier. Well, I'm not sure. I've definitely just noticed what makes it harder rather than what makes it easier. I wouldn't recommend doing a heat training session really late in the evening if you want to try and go to sleep. It's not
yeah.
It takes quite a while to cool down, and then you wake up with a sort of AM thirst because, of course, you've just gone straight to sleep and you haven't had enough fluid afterwards.
This is science at its best.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like if you have pizza, you'll wake up. If you have pizza in the evening, you'll wake up, needing a drink. And if you do a heat chamber session at a similar time, you'll have to wake up and need a drink. And I think the other thing, I guess, my takeaway or lesson from it has been, I don't think it's so much the temperature. Obviously, it is the temperature you get to at extreme levels. Like at some point, if you get far too hot, you're gonna kind of stop. But I think what I've found is it's definitely feels to me to be the kind of the rate of change or the speed at which your temperature is increasing is when your body starts to sort of, I guess, flash warning signs. The kind of whatever the central governor, internal mechanism, all that sort of stuff really starts to kick in. And it's speed. It's how quickly that temperature goes up. seems to be the biggest determining factor for that, not necessarily what you get to. So I've been in there at whatever, 38.9, totally fine. I've been in there at 38. This is my temperature rather than the outside temperature, 38.3, thinking, oh my God, I've got to slow down. And it's definitely that, well, it's definitely that kind of gradient of the curve, which kind of makes sense, right? Your body's, I guess, trying to adapt, trying to do it. And if something's changing really quickly and it can't adapt or can't make a change, it would apply some common sense, which would be, hang on a minute, let's slow this idiot down.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it kind of makes sense physiologically as well, where if the brain's getting so many signals from the receptors saying, the temperature's changed, it's changed again, it's changed again, it's changed again. The brain's going to be like, well, what's causing the biggest shift in body temperature? It's activity. So let's shut that down as quick as we can. Make you feel like it's really hard. Let's make the muscles feel like they're not really working as well. Make you feel a bit lightheaded, so we kind of like get you all like laying on the floor doing nothing. And that's going to be the biggest way of adjusting internal temperature, is stop producing it. And so it kind of makes sense that the brain's going to go, well, that's escalating really quickly. How about we just back it off really quickly? Because when do we catch the peak? And if we shut down activity, we catch the peak earlier. Whereas if there's a slow, gentle drift up, the body probably is thinking, well, I'll just sweat a bit more and see if that stops things gradually increasing. But that's fascinating that as well, peak temperature didn't seem to have a massive problem. I'm wondering if that's potentially also some of the wearable stuff that could be playing a part there too. Have we got a nice little tablet that you can swallow or something else? I think Nick was going to try and apply at some point. We can see if that's also true later on after this.
Yeah, I think, but it is that you can kind of feel it. You can sense it takes a while for the temperature to start shifting, and then it does start to move. And I think it's obviously it's an artificial environment, right? You're in the heat chamber. There's no ventilation, or very little, apart from the little crack. There's a little window that's broken. So there's no ventilation. So actually the sweating's not working, right? It's not actually cooling you properly. There's no evaporation going on. So it all starts to tie together with the kind of temperature and how you feel, and that, the body, obviously the body's rather smarter. The subconscious body is rather smarter than we ever give it credit for. And I guess that's the lesson has been, that process is very much how it's panned out. I've probably done 20 odd sessions now, so I've started to build a bit of a kind of mental picture of the days that have gone well, the days that haven't, or harder, or whatever. And, if I go in hot, as in I've been outside, or I've been doing a lot more that day, or it has an impact. If I'm tired, that's the other one. If I've had one session particularly where can't remember what reason, what the kind of reason for very little sleep was, but I had little sleep, and that had a massive negative impact. Like, that made it a lot harder. So, they're all good. I guess they're all good insights, because they're like, sleep in the days ahead is important. Sorry, days ahead of the race. Well, sleep is important anyway, but you know what I mean. Being hydrated before you start, not going off too quickly, moderating that effort and kind of slowing down and trying to control it. So it's all been useful.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Works.
We even see that in rehab states, where someone's sleep status effectively looks at their pain threshold. So the more unslept you are, the lower your pain threshold is. So something that hurts at a 4 out of 10 normally is suddenly becoming a 5, or maybe even a 7 out of 10, just purely based on your recovery. But there's a really good book by a guy called Matt Walker called Why We Sleep. That kind of goes into the science of sleep a lot, and there's a lot of other people that are doing incredible work that aren't quite so easy to get information from. But what we used to think with sleep was that we could train it. We could almost train to need less sleep. And that's not the case. You don't actually adapt. There's something which is, for me, fascinating, is one thing you don't adapt to. Even though lack of sleep is a stress, we don't seem to have any adaptation cycle to it, which is very interesting. Aside from that, It's not actually the night before the race that's the most important one, but the night before the night before. That seems to
Yeah.
be the biggest bang for buck, where if that night's sleep is bad, you're going to get a bad night's sleep anyway the night before just because of nervousness anyway, but that has the biggest effect on things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but banking sleep, it doesn't happen. You've got to be consistently sort of getting good at it.
Yeah. No, and that's, I mean, I remember that back from rowing. It was always like our coach, Sean, was like, he was, it was not the night before. It was the days before. He didn't care. He's like, I don't care if you're up all night. Like, if, you won't feel great, but that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about today and sorry, days back. That kind of, that hasn't changed, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's been going around for a while. So yeah, so then we had another question. We had a question. Well, we sort of answered one of the questions because I started just jabbering on about it, which was about the heat chamber.
Yeah.
But the other question was, how does the taper, if there is one, of which there is, how does the taper vary compared to, for example, a marathon?
It massively depends on the athlete themselves, but the taper for this compared to your marathon is actually quite similar, where we would sometimes during the taper, we would reduce volume massively, and different stages of a taper would require different drops in volume. So, for example, if it's a 2-week taper, we would drop the first week of the taper down by sort of 35% of the normal mileage, and then the second week is another 50% off that again. So we're kind of left with a residual, what would that be, like 30% left of whatever you were doing during a big week. But then we could do cool things like increasing intensity. We could do more plyometric-based activities during the taper. We can do more sort of performance-based metrics, performance-based exercises to get more springy, hoppy kind of metrics out of it. With this, we don't need that quite so much because...
You mean you're not expecting me to go springing up that 17-mile climb?
I do expect you to be springing up that 17-mile climb, by the way. But I think with this one, there's so much more that can go wrong in the lead up to this, in that if it's a marathon, and this is not to belittle the marathon at all, it's still a huge race for a lot of people. But by increasing the intensity the weeks before, we're only going to get 0.1% better. Like maybe. There's only so much icing you can fit on top of the cake anyway. And the plyometrics and everything is kind of just to give that stiffness to the body in the last lead up. And with this one, it's 135 miles. And that stiffness is going to go within the first 50. And so we're going to be left with whatever we're left with after that. And so doing an extra couple of plyometrics and so on isn't really going to move the needle in this. Running economy is going to come from, that first 50 miles. And after that, it's going to be down to logistics and resilience and so on, which is probably a lowest hanging fruit there is just your mind state and being active enough that keeps your mind going, like you said before, going not scratching at the walls, like, and thinking about every possible virtual scenario, but also promoting recovery because all the hard work's been done. Especially with the heat chamber stuff now, there's a lot of internal stress that's just happened. And so we need to then go, boom, we need to be ready and as rested as possible for that first piece of the race, which is going to be pretty good.
Yeah. No, and I think it's quite a weird, so mentally it's quite a weird time because you want to feel like you're doing something, but the doing is not, basically the most important thing is to do less. So mentally or psychologically, that's quite a challenging space to inhabit. One I've got better at, but it's not one that, you find yourself. I had it the other day. We did that carbohydrate test. We talk about that in a sec, but did a carbohydrate test last week, which was 2 hours on the treadmill, so it was just 2 hours straight through on the treadmill, not in a heat chamber. It was physically, relatively, a relative effort, not like a huge effort, but like it was hot, not heat chamber hot, but it was hot down there. It was a mental effort because my my headphones ran out halfway through, and I had to stare at myself for 2 hours, which is pretty hard work. So yeah, but then the next day I found myself back home doing the heat chamber, and I was like, I was tired, right? Because I traveled up to London to do it and all the rest of it. And I was just, I had to kind of really listen to myself say, just stop at 45 minutes. Like
Mm.
I am, this is not, I'm not, I'm pushing over the top here
Yeah,
for no real benefit. The kind of little voice was telling me, I sort of say, I've got to I've got to hit the random arbitrary hour. And I was like, no, don't. This is not going to do anything. More than likely, if I do this extra, I'm more likely to kind of trigger a bit of illness because I've overcooked it than I am to get any benefit whatsoever.
100%.
I was sitting there thinking, you get sort of, you kind of look at your scores and stuff, and I'm like, oh, my core sensor's saying this. I wasn't wearing my core sensor for the 2 hours on the previous day, so why am I worried about
Yeah,
an
yeah.
extra? But you get sucked into it, and it's just inevitable. And that headspace, because the rest of the time you've got this like, we must move forward, we must move forward, you must move forward, and then you have these moments where you're like, somehow you got to stop, or not stop, but what I mean, pause or recuperate.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we've mentioned this sort of saying that we've coined recently with a couple of clients, being like, this is not an exam. You don't need to cram the revision in. It's happened. Now it's about just getting to the start line and letting your body do what it does. It's been learning to do. But yeah, we don't cram in revision now because, like you said, the sudden change in intensity or volume or tipping over the edge, that's suddenly a chest infection or whatever that people pick up in these last bits, and suddenly that's the whole race that could be like off the cards because it's not healthy for you to run anymore. So that those risks aren't the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I think it's probably another way we can say it. I've got almost an analogy for everything, but there's some instances where we can do some cool stuff and we can push the edge a little bit, but that was a month ago, and that was our like run downhill fast. Those are all those bits that we can really taper in and sharpen the edge. That's done now. If there's a need to do anything heat wise, we'll do it when we're like walking. We'll just get into the passive, like semi-active heat training, just to kind of keep things ticking over. And we'll be doing it when you're out there in the heat anyway. So it'll be more acclimatization now rather than acclimation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it feels like. It's like, and the other thing is there's enough going on already. Like the admin is not insignificant, like if I will probably share at some point the kind of packing layout that is currently going on in my bedroom. It's just like, it's piles and piles of stuff, and it's, you're thinking about all these things and all the stuff you've got to take. And I think that's also, that's a stress. That is a stress plus work and all that, trying to get that out of the way and things like that. It's very easy to just get sucked into, I must do the bit I know how to do, which is to go out and train hard.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the bit that, of course, then that just tips you over the edge and gives you a problem.
Yeah, no,
Or
we rely,
potential.
and also we rely on that routine in moments of stress too. So when we are stressed, we look for familiarity, and if familiarity is that run where you can kind of mentally switch off and you know what you're doing and you feel confident, strong, and able, all that kind of stuff, where you're looking at that pack and going, I don't feel confident, strong, and able right now. Whatever, we always draw upon what we're good at, and a lot of the time, that's why people tend to get into these sort of overtraining syndromes, or exercise reliance is another big thing we're seeing at the minute. People who physically can't not exercise because of their mental state it gives them. But that in itself is a poor mental health. And that's kind of where we're talking about this, especially with a lot of young people at the moment that are relying on exercise for social activities, but also they feel like there's no other real option to sort of keep them straight and narrow or make them feel like they're capable of something, or there's no real struggle in their life. They go out for a run, it's hard, they get better, they see improvements, blah, blah, blah. That is a hook. And suddenly now they kind of identify themselves as that person. Slight spin off, but yeah, it's a big part of the paranoia is the routine and
Yeah.
the exercise reliance piece. So,
There's a very simple fix for that,
mm.
which is sign up to be coached by Fletch. And then when you've done one 30K session with descending intervals, you'll be very happy to have a day off. Alternatively, any number of the other Wednesday double sessions that are exceedingly good at triggering the desire to sit on your ass. But yeah, jokes aside, it is, I guess on that topic, that's basically acknowledging that the sessions are becoming drunk sessions because they're just doing something for the sake of something, and actually stepping back and having a proper structure, and then having a real, it doesn't, you feel like you're doing, it looks like you're doing less, but you end up feeling like you're doing more. And you've only got to get to a week of that before you realize that's what it is. And I think, it doesn't mean you don't have to do nothing. You can do nothing. But it's definitely a thing. We've had another question. You might have seen it. It's a question from one of the crew, or one of our extended crew, from Rach, who's kind of I guess, the sort of campaign manager. She's not in the crew in the car, but she's kind of part of everything else and organizing. And the question is, are you shitting bricks? So I guess that's a question for me.
That's only one I can, unless I just smell-o-vision. I'm not sure.
Am I shitting bricks? No, no, I'm not. I'm kind of more excited than I am anything else at the moment. I think we had a kind of what was it? Sort of live webinar yesterday for competitors and crew with the race director Chris Gossman, and I left that feeling, well, like I said, more excited than anything else. I thought there were some bits in there that were, obviously there's a load of kind of admin and logistics and all that sort of stuff, but there were some bits in there which kind of reassured me. For example, his kind of slightly evil laugh when he was talking about the kind of longer sections of the course and how they went on forever and ever, and how we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, how I've been spending a lot of time thinking, kind of preparing for the scale of things, the fact that you can see the same view for 50K. I think he said you come up of, not sure where it was, maybe Panamint Springs, and you're coming along and you can see it's a very, very slight downhill, and it's something like 30 kilometers to the next town or something. And he said you can see it for 30K and it never appears to get closer. So that kind of like mental preparation of the kind of scale and the kind of enormity of not just the task, but the kind of the landscape, I think kind of was part of it. And I think the other aspect from my side is like, it's now kind of wanting to get there. Like to get to this kind of big hurdle of getting everything to a flight and getting on the plane and getting there. Then you feel like you're in the kind of the sort of race village part, rather than now where it's like, I've got everything else going on as well.
Yeah.
So, but there will be some bricks arriving on Monday.
Fresh shipment.
Yeah. I don't know. How are you feeling? You're on the kind of crew side of things. How is
Yeah, I mean, to be brutally honest about it, I'm very excited, which I think is the same coin as nervous. I feel like they're the same emotion, just depending on how you kind of frame it for yourself. I'm very excited. We've been building up for this for a long time, and to see you put it all into motion now is just going to be amazing. And also to stop preparing for it for a while would be nice too. I for you as well. I think just having that constant thing on the horizon, be like, okay, I'll get this another session done. That's also part of the worry as well. And so, after this, where's the focus going to come from, and what you're aiming for, and so on. But
let's leave that. Let's that can of worms. That can of worms.
Mañana.
I mean, that is a whole. We're going to have to do a long podcast for that. That's going to be a whole. There's going to be a whole heap of crap coming out of that one.
Decided I'm moving to Mongolia, and we're running the whole country.
Yeah, exactly. Don't. It's that is definitely a podcast, or it's a whole book in itself, like how to do that.
So I think the main thing for me now is just going in fully knowing exactly what my role is, and having the guardrails in place to make sure that I know when to hand off things and I know when to be handed things, and what I'm in control of. So that's kind of like now the next, until the start line, is just making sure that we're in touch with how the spreadsheets work, and where ends of roles finish. And it's more just that stuff now that I'm going to have to get my head into, because that's the bit that's, the team getting together bit again, aside from the practice session we did, which was a little bit more informal. Now it's about, okay, let's just drilling into it and let crew chief be crew chief, get told what to do. Is that working? No, move on. get into something that is working and own your station as well.
Yeah, and it's been there's obviously a lot that's been going on behind the scenes to get to that stage, and I think I feel like we've got a pretty good level of, I guess, not organization is the wrong thing, kind of just sort of organization, but understanding. I think everyone's got a pretty good, solid kind of framework of what they're good at, what they're not to do, where their responsibilities are and stuff. But we'll kind of bed that down in the next few days when we're all spending time together and, have a bit of fun along the way.
Yeah.
Which I think, I mean, we've got some, well, maybe we should keep the surprises for how we're going to do the vehicle identification. But there's I think the thing that people probably don't, one thing, like that's a good example of things you probably wouldn't think about necessarily, but are really critical. Like every single run. So the run goes off in 3 waves. There are 30 odd people in each wave, an hour apart. You're not allowed to run with anyone. So very quickly it strings out. Most people hire the same car because there's a kind of proven car that everyone wants to get. By all accounts, most of them are white. The race starts in the dark or close to the dark. And when you're running in the dark, you are just a head torch that bobs along with a red light flashing on your front and back. And all the cars have their hazard lights on. So not biggest, but one of the significant challenges is like you finding me and me finding you, on the road. And also then never losing track because there's no signal, right? So I think, I can't remember exactly which sections, but there's vast sections of the course where there's no mobile phone signal, like 50 miles of it. So things like that, like, it sounds silly, but like losing your runner, which you would imagine is a hard thing to think. It happens every year, and
that's what he said. That caught me when he's like, every year it happens. I was like, how is it every year that someone loses their runner like 10 miles off course?
Yeah, well, let's hope. But as we were all sort of semi-jokey on the WhatsApp as we were listening to the thing yesterday, at least my head torch will be probably a good foot higher up than everyone else's.
I was aside from all this, I was Googling that we're actually not very, very, very far away, but we're quite close to Area 51.
Well, let's
hope. So, if there's anything really going on, if people start taking photographs of you know why.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting. It's now we've got a kind of day of tomorrow again. Might even put my out of office on, which has happened about 3 times in my life. So put an out of office on, get some packing done, and get up to Heathrow. And the next meeting will be in LA.
Yeah.
We've got an Airbnb for a couple of days before we head up to Lone Pine and start all the check-in, form filling in, mandatory kit, all the various other bits and bobs we seem to have to do all in an afternoon.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty extensive schedule they've got for us when we get over there, but also an extensive amount of product that they were wanting to shift. Every hat, shoe, T-shirt I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun to come back.
Yeah, it's actually it's from America, right? So we'll have better be some retail. Yeah. So no, it's all good. We've got I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like, the training's the build-up's been great, right? We've had a really solid, I don't know how many months, but like months without interruption, as in we've had a really good build-up.
I can show almost the exact build-up from this year.
Oh yeah.
This is a new graph I've been working on.
Oh, very nice.
But, the early start to the year, basically just driving up that chronic volume, getting that green line to come with the red line, just keeping it up. And then boom, we had that Stratford Marathon. So we rested you for a little bit of time after that. And we've been just pushing the limits up, pulling it back, pushing it up. That was in and around the 80K, then bringing it back up again. Big push last week with a couple of weeks ago with other bits that were going on training-wise. And now it's about just pulling back. Oh, yeah. Was that the 80K was there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's
June.
Second one was 80.
That's the 80K. That was just shits and gigs, I think must have been.
3rd of May, what was that? Don't know what I was doing in May.
What were we doing in May?
Probably one of your special sessions.
It could have been. I think we did like a 100K week that time. That was one of the other ones we did. Yeah, and then just pushing up. So we've kind of now starting to taper it off. So we've got this nice level, fitness level. And get to the start line ready to go.
Yeah. It's kind of amusing watching this because if you look at, say, other training platforms that are available, but things like Strava, if I open that, it just tells me I'm just disappearing into like an oblivion of unfitness, because they're so quick to kind of, they push this, I don't know, they seem to push a very kind of big agenda around like what's, cumulative, like improvement, always going up, like always
Yeah.
trying to increase. It's never very good at accepting like recovery as part of their formula. Um, and obviously, because I've just been in the treadmill, in the chamber, the volume's been just constant, and it can't deal with constant. It thinks constant is declining, and so it's like
Yep.
you're useless. You're useless. It tells me. Then it'll tell me, and then I'm no doubt I'll do I'll do this run. It'll be tell me the next day like you're the fittest you've ever been, and I won't be able to move.
I don't feel very fit right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was like, thanks to you getting this heat training in for myself. I might finally back on Strava again just to kind of like see what the data does do for my own training perspective. Having been very inconsistent for like 2 years now, I can see the graph being like, whoa, that baby was born. That was
Yeah.
For the first time I had a steady climb to the increase in training load. I was like, oh, I went for a reasonably long run on the weekend. That went well. And then the following day, my fitness level dropped. I was like, what's driven that? It's like say for example, it was 30, it went down to like 28 the following day. I was like, why am I less fit today than I was when I was tired after yesterday? It doesn't seem to make any logical sense around what we know about physiology. It's just such a basic data, and hopefully we never have to repeat this to Strava in an apology note, but it's such a basic level of data analysis around that fitness score that unfortunately makes it almost useless for me and you, but almost dangerous for other people that just want to see that thing go higher and higher and higher.
Yeah, because it really rewards. It rewards. We weren't meant to be slagging them off, but it seems to reward a kind of ever increasing load, and it's too skewed towards that, and that doesn't stack up with how you train. It doesn't stack up with kind of real world things, and it has a very quick, as we've kind of noticed, it very very quickly tapers away, which is not helpful because if you have 2 days off, it's like dropping off. It's like that. It's not a useful signal to someone. Anyway, we've talked about all that kind of zooming out business and looking at the time frame that you're kind of measuring on and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, certainly. Maybe we can when we're scrabbling around for things for me to focus on in a couple of weeks' time, we can tackle that.
I've got plenty for you to tackle on the coach and dashboard side of things, so
Okay,
no shortage of concentration there.
Yeah. But I have. It's amusing. I have. We need to wrap up because otherwise I'll probably miss my flight. We'll carry on rabbiting on for so long. But yeah, no, I haven't begun thinking about what I'll do. But it's kind of like it's quite a useful exercise to start thinking about something to do, because the void afterwards can be a bit rudderless. And it's fine to have time off. I'm not talking about like the week after or anything, but just sort of thinking of, even if they're not something I commit to or actually end up doing, but they're just kind of ideas of like, oh, I could do this, or that race is a bit interesting or something. Because I think you get swept up very much in the focus of this, and then if there's nothing to kind of drag you out the other side, although I have a lot of people telling me, you won't do anything stupid like this again, and I don't answer that question.
Just because of you, I'm now going to.
It's not a question I have been affirmative on, although I have said, let's not talk about that now.
Well, I've got something for you. How about a sub 3 at Stratford Marathon next year?
We can try, but it'd have to be a very steep downhill. Yeah, I don't. I'm not. You can try and do that. You can try. Yeah. Well, you can try and encourage me. I just don't have a massive motivation to run a fast marathon. It's bizarre. Maybe it's because I just have never thought of myself as doing fast running. So I've just not opened that kind of area of my sort of thinking. It's something I don't feel I'm motivated by. Maybe maybe I would be. I don't know. It's one of those areas I've just not been sort of thought about speed like that.
How about we train and we accidentally run a sub-3 marathon in Stratford
Yeah. When you accidentally just plop it in the training program, and I'm like, oh, that felt a bit harder than I was expecting. No, we can come up with something far more interesting than that. I think we can.
We can run
come
it
up with something.
backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Run on my hands. Yeah, I think it would be terrifying if people saw me trying to run sub-3. They'd be, oh my god, what's this thing coming towards me? Good stuff. Right, Fletch, I will let you get on with your day. I will get back to finishing off this work that I've been failing to finish all day. I will
Same.
then get in the heat chamber and get packing, and I will see you next time in LA.
See you in LA.
See you in LA. Nice one.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers, bye.